Welcome everybody, it's Heard the Stout here with another deck tech video. Today we're going to be looking at what I'm going to be playing in when the best of one ladder hits. Currently right now I am almost completely free to play. I think I spent at most $50 on some giraffes and the starter pack. That's $50 is probably a stretch. So my wild card collection isn't as big as it should be. As I progress up the ladder, I do plan on investing in that more, but my goal right now is to keep it as minimum as possible, but we'll see as time progresses. The two decks that I'm leaning towards are a Golgari deck and a red-green dinosaurs. Obviously in this format, it's best of one, so I think early on there's going to be a lot of aggro decks, Merfolk, White Weenie, Boros. We'll start seeing some of the Jeskai, Mono Red, Mono Blue Tempo, obviously Golgari, Blue White Mill, Esper Control. I think we'll see a decent healthy mix of cards in the meta game, but I think early on it's the aggro decks that are going to be the ones who are really starting out, just because they're easier. They're easier to build, less wild card intensive right now. Like even the Merfolk is essentially one of the starter decks, I believe. So first I'm going to take a look at my version of Golgari. Again, this was the deck that I thought was going to be the best deck from actually before the standard even hit. I remember I was playing a lot with the Golgari Explore deck. I got some moderate success. I couldn't get past those red decks from Amonkhet red decks. I have a little more of an unconventional take on the Golgari right now. Part of that has to do with the wild cards that I have and where I put my investment in, but it seems to work out for this deck. This deck has worked out for me. One of the things you'll notice that'll jump out about this build. First, the land count is really low, and the other thing is I'm not running any of the elf ramp spells. I went with I really wanted to go with the Wild Growth Walker Explore look, just because I felt the life gain and the walkers were going to be they're a powerful force to reckon. I really wanted to go with the Wild Growth Walker Explore build of this deck, just because I thought that suite of mana ramp was better, and it actually gives me better bodies, whereas a Llanowar Elf is a 1/1 body that can get shocked away easily. And once that's gone, you've gotten no value out of it. Whereas the Explorer, at least by the time they hit, they've already done their Explorer, so they've dug through your deck, and so they've already had their value. That's why I prefer them over a true mana ramp spell. So this deck overall is, I truly believe this is actually, the Golgari deck is the best deck in the format currently. The hard part is finding which Golgari it is, because Green-Black just has access to all the best removal. You can get either the best creature removal, you have best hand disruption. You can even come up with a good mid-range suite because of the creatures between the creatures and the mana base. It's it can be such an efficient deck. So let's just go look at it card by card. Obviously, in the 2 drops we have I run the 4 Secret Squires, 3 Branch Walkers, and of course the 4 Wild Growth Walkers. Just because I prefer the Explorer method. The Kroll Harpooner, great value for that card for 2 mana. I have contemplated adding a second, but I think all in all the removal is good enough that it's not needed. This I think is where the deck I'm gonna need to do the most tweaking with the deck, especially coming into the best of one format, is getting the right number of destruction. Especially this 2 mana destruction of Cast Down, Moment of Craving, and then obviously Assassin's Trophy. Assassin's Trophy is tricky because you have the trade-off of giving your opponent a land. Moving on to the 3 drops, Midnight Reaper is a new addition to the deck. I just added that. Been playing around with it. I know some people have been using it for a while. It has good success in different matchups, all really more metagame dependent. Playcrafter is a card that I've really liked. That's a candidate to go up to 2, depending. Midnight Reaper probably isn't going to make the final cut. Jadelight Ranger, that's another, obviously with the Explorer, you got to have the Jadelight Ranger. The double Explore mechanic is just too good, too powerful to pass up. This is actually on a candidate to cut, just because it has been hit and miss for me. I almost 4 sometimes seems like too many, 3 sometimes seems like too few. So that one's gonna have to take some playing around with to find the right number of that. One thing that is different than most other lists is I'm running Recollect. That card has just bailed me out so many times. If on games where I've needed an extra Find Finality, or what's really nice is because you're able to get the mana enough that if you needed to Recollect and Vraska's Contempt on the same turn. I've done that a couple times. Chupacabra, and 4 drops we have Chupacabra, Vraska's Contempt. 3 and 3 seems like a good number for me. The Chupacabra, at one point I was running 4 of them. That just seems to be too many. 4 is too many of them for this deck. And depending on the meta, it may end up going down to 2, but 3 really seems like the good number for that right now. And same thing with Vraska's Contempt. Obviously, at the 5 drops, we got Vivian Reed. 2 seems to be a good number for me for this build of it. May go up, may go down, depending on how the metagame, but 2 really seems, especially because that enchantment removal is, because we have a hard time dealing with those other ways of dealing with those enchantments, like Call of Conclave, Seal Away. So this is just a good way to deal with that. Also flyers too, obviously. And then if it's -8, ultimate is hands down win the game. Eldest Reborn has been a tricky card. At one point early on, I was running 3 of them. And now I'm down to 1. It's a very powerful value card, high valued card if you're able to do all 3. If it's able to stay on the board for 3 turns. I'm actually contemplating even cutting that last one out now. I get more value out of Playcrafter for less mana. And moving on to your 6 drops, Vraska Relic Seeker, another enchantment removal. That's the big use for that one. Very few times have I ever used Vraska to create pirate tokens. I prefer Relic Seeker over the Golgari Queen, just because it's more consistent destruction, and I prefer to have my current build. I can't go losing too many, sacrificing too many creatures. Izoni is a card that early on was good. It's made it in and out over several iterations. Probably actually going to get cut. Carnage Tyrant. For now, I'm settled on 3 Carnage Tyrants. We'll see how it goes as the metagame evolves. I mean, obviously, you're big. That's such a difficult card to deal with. It's good in the control matchup. It's even good against the weenie decks. I know some people cut it in the weenie decks, but having that 7/6 Trampler just as powerful. If they choose to block it, they're going to block with several creatures to get rid of them. And of course, Find Finality is another card that I have left in on a lot of matches where some people do sideboard it out, just because it's got both modes of it are so useful in this deck, especially with such a heavy explore theme that I have going on in this current build. So yeah, it's just there's so much value there, so many good options you can use, or it has such a great different modes. So yeah, currently I am sitting at 20 land, only 20 lands. It makes it very tight, and it does lead to some more mulligan draws than I would like. I'm probably going to end up taking that up. But if I do take that up, it's really going to more be like a Detection Tower, Field of Ruin. Detection Tower is great in the mirror match, especially when you're fighting, dealing with the Carnage Tyrants. Just allows me to actually destroy them, exile them, or whatever. The other one that I've run, had some success with, especially against the Jeskai decks, would be Field of Ruin. Because their mana base is so tight with their non-basic lands, this can actually be really devastating to a Jeskai player, depending on how they have their build. But more often than not in an arena, it's been pretty good. It's been advantageous for me to sideboard in the Field of Ruin and destroy their lands. And also in the same matchups, I have used Assassin's Trophy to get rid of their non-basic lands, especially sometimes they run fewer white sources. So it all depends on how their build is. Moving over to my sideboard, some of the cards that I'm keeping an eye on, may move them into the deck. Really depends on the metagame. I won't be using Duress. I just can't sacrifice that those card slots in best of one. Now, if it were, I wouldn't be doing the discard, because if it came down to where I needed it, I'd probably play something else entirely. Moment of Craving, again, like I said earlier, that's going to be one of those key components of nailing this deck down, I believe. Getting the right number of Moment Cravings. Golden Demise is a card I'm going to keep an eye on, because just depending on what the metagame is, obviously it's good against White Weenie, the Boros decks, any of the small go wide decks. Plague Crafter we talked about earlier. Deathgorge Scavenger, one of those cards I'm going to keep an eye on. This might be good in the mirror matches. If I might want to consider main decking this one. And same thing with Thrashing Brontodon, might be something. Depending on where the metagame goes, what decks are going to be up there on the ladder. That'll be a card I want to keep an eye on putting in. Yeah, same thing with Videmare. I'm not really a fan of the Golgari Queen. I know it's 4 mana, but I'm just not a fan of it. Doom Whisperer is one of those interesting cards. I have a love-hate relationship with Doom Whisperer. I understand it's such a powerful card. I know what it does. I've never had great success running it. But it's just I know it's weird to me. That's one of that's unconventional wisdom. But I've never been too big of a fan of Doom Whisperer. May end up making it despite how much I don't like it, but yeah. And then I talked about the lands earlier. One thing I do want to keep an eye on would be Immortal Sun. It's something I've contemplated throwing in this deck. I haven't actually played around with it at all. More than likely, if it ends up being a very Golgari dominant ladder, and especially the Planeswalker versions of Golgari, I'll consider putting in that Immortal Sun in there, just because that really helps those Planeswalkers, obviously. So yeah, all in all, powerful deck. The tricky part is going to be nailing the right build of it. The next deck that I'm considering playing for the ladder right now is something I call Dynast Knowers. This is a deck started out as something I just kind of threw together, more of just a fun deck. Big fat red and green creatures, red and green stomping dinosaurs. Brings me back to my early days of playing Magic, because those were the first decks that I built, were my red green stompy decks. So This version I have definitely isn't the final version. It still needs a few more tweaks to it. It's going to be less dependent on only dinosaurs. So I'm gonna cycle in a few other cards in there. But the main idea behind this deck is put big fat creatures on, attack with them, and then once they stabilize the game, hopefully they're within reach of a Banefire. So let's take a look at what I have here. This is more of a traditional deck that I would have built back in the day. Red, green, mana ramp elves. We've got Commune with a Dinosaur. And obviously, as I said, Banefire. That's really your win condition. Because most times people are going to be able to stabilize the game state, and so many times I've been able to Banefire right at the end. We've got the 2 drops, obviously Drover the Mighty. I like that. I went with the Drover as opposed to the 4 of Llanowar. Obviously, it fits better. Just fits better in this game. It's a lot more harder to removal's a lot harder. It quickly gets out of shock range. So yeah. Lava Coil, Lightning Strike, because the early drops are so few. I have these in there just to help keep the board state clear early on. Deathgorge Scavenger, matchup dependent, but has been may end up putting more of those in there. Ranging Raptors was a card that I really so desperately wanted to work. It just so very much me. Mana ramp, dinosaur, but that's probably going to get cut. Thrashing Brontodons, so good in then just about any artifact enchantment removal. This is a new card. I just threw this in there just this week to start playing with it. Probably going to end up putting more of these in there, depending on how the final build ends up. Ripjaw Raptor, obviously dinosaur card draw. Sarkhan's Unsealing. I'll talk about these both. I'll talk about that in a minute. But obviously, a lot of decks. Obviously, a lot of these decks are running Sarkhan's Unsealing just because you have so many big drops that it just does so. Sarkhan's Unsealing just does so much. Feels kind of clunky at times, but just does a lot for this deck. Experimental Frenzy is something I've been messing around with in this deck, because unfortunately too many times my hand ends up gassed, and that's always one of the big drawbacks with this deck, especially if they have any kind of good removals like Golgari, or if they've been countered with the Jeskai control. Izzet-Drakes, some versions of Izzet-Drakes run a lot of counters. This helps reestablish the board state. Rounding 4 of Monstrosaurs and Ragesaur Alphas, because who doesn't love big, fat, hasty dinosaurs? Obviously, Carnage Tyrants. That's the king of the dinosaurs right now. Sorry, Galta. Verdant Sun Avatar is something I run. Some decks run it, some don't. But yeah, it's bailed me out of games plenty of times, especially Verdant Suns into Galta. That can reestablish. That can win you a game. Galta has been one of those cards where I had a little love-hate relationship with it. I've almost never cast it for its full mana cost. I think once I did, but that was a crazy game. But it's something I've contemplated removing, but then so many times it's actually won me games that I don't want to do it. So it's a very swingy card. It's very green. I mean, it's a 12/12 Trampler. What can go wrong with that? 12/12 Trampler for 2 mana, more often than not. This may end up going down to just 2. And obviously land, a little higher land base than my Golgari deck. 22 lands, obviously Rootbound Crags. Can't wait till Ravnica Allegiance when we get Grohl, just to see what this deck is going to do. I have the feeling this red-green deck is going to jump up into the standings once Ravnica Allegiance drops. May end up draking out these unclaimed territories, especially as I start relying less on the dinosaur theme and more on fat creatures and my Banefires. Cards I'm going to be looking at to consider: Vine Mares, obviously Hexproof 5/3, more Null Hides, Pelt Collector, less likely to make it in this deck. Prey Upon, Rapid Bite, those are cards I'm going to keep an eye on, depending on what the metagame comes out to be. And then also same thing with Immortal Sun. I think I'm currently leaning towards the Dinosaur deck. I like that right now because, well, first there's a couple reasons. Mainly the Golgari deck. The frustrating part with the Golgari deck, I think overall that deck is better, but it's just getting the right one. Because if you get the wrong one, the metagame has the wrong one for the metagame. You're gonna have bad days, more bad days than good. If you get the right one, you can easily fly right up the ladder, no problem. Dinosaurs is very matchup agnostic right now to it, so it doesn't matter really what you're playing. My game plan is still the same. There's really no change to this game plan. So in that regards, it's simpler and easier to pilot, but hey, games you don't have to think where you just slam down your big fat dinosaurs is a fun way to win too. I have a couple other decks I'm keeping an eye on. More than likely won't play them much. Obviously Merfolk, but that's too easy to beat. I have a white Life Gain Cat deck I've been playing around with that has had some success in some constructed events. Also Mono Red is another one. Those ones still need more wild cards. I still need to give them some TLC. I'll probably do a deck tech on those later. So let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. Follow me on Twitch. I'd love to chat with you, see what your thoughts are on what decks you're playing, what you think is going to be better, and what version of the Golgari decks do you think are going to dominate this format. So yeah, let me know. Peace.